We want to be men, strong-minded, upright, sharp-witted, intellectual men. We've got to begin to think for ourselves. We have to take a thought and begin to examine it and ask ourselves, does this work for me? Gentlemen, what's going on? Welcome to the Better Man channel. Seneca said it best when he said, he who follows another not only discovers nothing, he investigates nothing. In this crazy, chaotic world, we should be not only open-minded, but we should be, more important, actively minded. We should be these critical thinkers that assess different thoughts, different perceptions, different views, and we place them in their proper place, their proper position. If it works for us, if there's some truth in it, then we can accept that. We can begin to follow that. But too often, like Seneca stated, we blindly follow the ideas that are laid out before us, that easy path before us because everyone else has went that way. And we follow or find ourselves following that easy course without putting much thought into it. We have these beautiful minds, but what a waste when we do not actively engage in critical thinking and to begin to dissect those thoughts, those ideologies, those perceptions, the dogmatic philosophy of religions. We never take those apart. We just blindly accept those, and we find ourselves daydreaming through life. Think about the ideas and ideals and philosophies that you uphold. Where did they come from? We were taught those by our parents, our grandparents, our teachers. We might have watched a movie and one particular thought resonated with us. And as we get older, we watch friends go this direction and all this propaganda and all these outsized external things are constantly bombarding us where we're overstimulated to think, well, this is the way that it's done. Everyone goes to college. Everyone gets a career. Everyone becomes married. And we think that's the right path, but that's just a collective understanding that is a very general conception. We want to be men, strong-minded, upright, sharp-witted, intellectual men. We've got to begin to think for ourselves. We have to take a thought and begin to examine it and ask ourselves, does this work for me? What good lies in this perception? And in doing so, we begin to carve away the fat. We begin to carve away the falsehoods, the deception, the ignorance in each thought that we've held before, and we find something lean. We find a lean thought, this upright, strong thought that actually works for us. We become these engaged people that quit taking things on face value just because it's worked for a particular person or it's an idea that's been upheld, but we look at it and we say, why the hell is everyone else following that particular train of thought? And we come to a certain age, we become 30, 40, 50, and we have this midlife crisis and we wonder why. It's because we fabricated all these little thoughts into this chaotic puzzle that we've adopted from this person and this other way of thinking. And we wonder why our life is in chaos. It's because we're following this chaotic map that really doesn't fit who we are, it fits the destination that we're trying to arrive at. We have to carve away the fat, carve away the falsehoods, the deceptions. We're open-minded in assessing other viewpoints and then taking the truths from that. And we have this lean thought, this muscular, strong thought. And we're open-minded enough that when another lean thought comes, we can compare those. How does this work for that person? How would this work for me? And we can cut away what doesn't work, and we have this even leaner, stronger thought, this synthesized thought patterns that begin to work for us. We remove that fabricated thought process that we've adopted from our grandparents because they adopted it from their grandparents because it worked in 1750. And we take on the mindset of a man that wants to be upright, that wants to be strong, that wants to be sharp, that wants to have that solar mindset where we have that elevated view where we can take in all ruminations, all processes, all views, all perceptions. We carve away what doesn't work, and we're left with this lean thought pattern that begins to work for us, our particular situations. We're tired of being led astray by the propaganda. We're tired of being led astray by great grandpa's way of thinking in his lifestyle back then, in his era. This is our era. This is our generation. What is going to work for us? And first and foremost, we have to begin thinking for ourselves. We have to actively engage in the process of carving out what doesn't work, what's false, what's deception, what's ignorance. And we find that we're left with something true that works for us in our particular and given situation. Thinking is not adopting these emotional passions that we see the current world doing. The current affairs in life are these emotional fueled people just going on instinct without much thought. They grab a hold of an idea and, oh, that sounds good, and they run with it. And anybody with any stage of maturity or any stage of intellect or wisdom can see that's just stupid and irrational. The thinking process is not emotionally fueled, just like it's not one of idle adaptation or idle acceptance. Too often we accept the previous generation's way of thinking, and that just doesn't fit into who we are. We've got to quit allowing other people to push their agendas, to push their thoughts on us, their ideologies, which ultimately enslave us and keep us from charting that path that's going to lead us to freedom. And that's what about it is, as romanticized as that sounds, that's what each individual that finds themselves in that existential crisis of what the hell does my life mean? That's where they find themselves is, I've got to chart my own path, man. I've got to set out on my own, find my own thought processes that work for me, to find that way of life that's going to be conducive to who I am. And that starts with actively engaging with your thought, not taking things for face value, not taking things just because that's the way they've been done. That doesn't mean that they're right. So we carve away the deceptions, we find the truths, and we begin to enact those in our lives, man. And when we begin to do that, we find that we become that free thinking man. We're not following the crowd. And therefore not discovering anything new or producive to our life. We begin investigating. Why is that thought there? Why do people follow that train of thought? What truth is in that philosophy? What lies and deception are in that ideology? We carve away the inessentials and we find the essential element of truth, which is always liberating and which is always that fresh breath of air of like, whew, the weight's off the shoulders and now I can just be me because I've analyzed and became critical in how I think. I just don't lazily daydream and accept things on face value. I actually become a man of thought, and a man of thought is one of power that has sovereignty over his life. Choose to actively think and become engaged in who you are. I love you guys. You'll hear from me next episode.